Welcome to one of my last Bionicle reviews I have set up for my channel at this time. If you're interested in seeing what the last review is going to be, stick around until the end of the video. I'm actually going to give a quick glimpse to show you what it's going to be, and I honestly think it's a pretty exciting one, so I would definitely recommend looking at least towards the end of the video if you're interested in what's upcoming. Today, though, I am looking at Bionicle Stars set 7135 Takanuva. This released in 2010, like the rest of the wave, for $7.99 in the United States. Now, previously here in one of the earlier reviews, I did go over the Paraka set that came out in the same year, along the same wave, and I really don't need to go into a lot of the same details before. So if you want to go and check that video out, it explains some of the problems the Bionicle Stars lineup had, some of the weirdness. This time around, I'm not going to let that influence as much of the review, though. I really want to review Takanuva for Takanuva. You see, this is the only one I didn't have when I was a child of him. I have Takanuva from 2003, the Mask of Light wave, where he first released. I also have the gigantic Takanuva, where he was getting corrupted by Shadow in 2008 and won't fit on screen comfortably. Like, you can't even get his crotch on there. He's massive. So if I need to reference him, I'm just going to stick his face on screen. I also have one of the Matoran versions of Takua, which is the same character, but obviously not the Toa version. I had the 2003 Takua as well, who I've not pulled out for this review. I never had the original one back when they called them Tohunga instead of Matoran, but that's neither here nor there. We're looking at Takanuva. Much like the Paraka set, we have the art of the golden Kanohi Hao in the back, the one that Tahu gets when he becomes the, quote, golden Bionicle, end quote. It's also got the nice maze on top, and it shows the others on the back. But there's nothing really different. I'm not going to focus on the box. That's something I did already cover in the last Stars set. What I am going to do is just get him right open and built. And here is the final set put together. Now there's also the golden armor piece that comes with him, much like, actually I think it's the exact same armor type that came with Paraka, but there's not really much point in showcasing it here. You in theory could have him wearing it too, but since his mask's in silver instead of gold this time, there's not really much point. It's not the same color gold as the original mask, so you couldn't really convert him easily over to it while using this piece, so not much point in that. But the set itself, I think, is a better representation of what it's trying to be than the Paraka set was with Nektan. I think there's still a little bit that could have been done differently and better that I'll talk about in a minute, but I do want to give a little bit of praise because, honestly, this is not a bad representation. The back's a little plain looking, but it feels substantial just from the use of the arm pieces and the way they did it. He feels like he's got a little bit of bulk to him, which works pretty well in the set's favor. I do think the headpiece that they gave all of the Matoran types with this body as well is a little off. It juts forward a little bit too much, so when he's standing straight up, his head sticks out a little too far. It's kind of hunchbacked looking, and I feel like there probably wasn't much that they could do otherwise, but I really wish they had. Other than that, my biggest complaint is actually with the color itself. See, the previous Takanuva sets had very solid white bodies there in the middle, and then the armor color, the gold or the steel gray, were just to accent that. Even this larger set, which had to have a lot of supporting pieces, feels mostly white underneath. It's a very solid and consistent color scheme. This set does go heavily on the white, but the body itself randomly doesn't match. It's not far from where the big color was, so it's not completely unheard of for Takanuva to have it, but I think it would have looked just a little bit better if the body had been done in white, which sadly that piece never was released in white, as well as the hands, and then let the mask and the shoulder pieces, maybe even the front armor, be silver from there. It would look a little better. I don't mind that it's done in silver since they were doing the gold Bionicle thing for Tahu in the first place, but I really wish that they had done a more consistent body like the others had. One thing I do want to highlight that I did particularly like is just the attention to detail. If you look in at the original, his legs and his arms were the same piece, but just facing opposite directions because of the way that they're put in there. They've actually used the same technique here with this one, which I think was just a really cool way to do that. The leg pieces forward and the arm pieces backward are the same piece, just like the original build, which is really cool. I also really like the fact that he's dual wielding these staves. They're not identical to the staff he had in 2003, but they really look the part quite nicely. And even though none of the other toys had him dual wielding, I think it's just a nice touch. It looks very cool. The mask itself is also very nice to have in this silver color. I believe there was a similar, if not identical color that this mask released in 2003 as well as part of Makuta's set, because Makuta used it as like a hand with fingers. I don't know if it's exactly the same, but it's really nice to see the mask appear in a different color from what I had it in as a child, so it's a very nice addition. So all in all, Takanuva, I think he's pretty good. I don't see myself really needing to modify him too much. I may go ahead and give him the semi-translucent mask that came with the original Takanuva as well, which is this piece in a white with glitteriness inside, since I think it'll look good with the white. I should have gone ahead and pulled that mask out just to do that. But regardless, I think this one was a worthwhile addition to pick up so that I finally have all three versions of Takanuva. So after shooting the last bit that you just finished watching, I decided, you know, what the hell, I'm not doing too many more of these, might as well go the extra mile for this one. And I dug out the old spare Kanohi bag so that I could get the mask in question that I wanted to try on him. And I figured since I was doing it, some of you guys might be interested in seeing it too. So the bonus mask of light that came with the 2003 Takanuva on the Bionicle Stars version looks something like this. It's actually kind of interesting. Gives it a cool dynamic, sort of gives it a glow to his head. I like that. I don't know if I'll keep it that way, but I kind of like that. But a promise is a promise, and I said I was going to give you a quick tease of what I'm going to do for the last one. Now, for the very few of you who watched the review of the Ignika keychain, which I have turned into a necklace now, might have picked up on the fact that I mentioned that this mask is one that's not easy to come by, and it's not one that I had. Past tense, had.